Hey friends, I have a question for you. Okay, in all honesty, this is actually a question for me. So I figure if I need this question for myself, but maybe somebody else out there needs it too. Very literally, if you have a few minutes, maybe you've stopped and you're listening to this short audio, maybe you could get out a pencil on a piece of paper and think through this. I literally need to do this for myself. Think about, in very realistic minute, hour terms. Not dramatic, very realistic. How much time in a day? Let's say that you are awake for 18 hours in a day. 16 to 18 hours. How much time in that day, in that 18 hours, do you spend thinking about things you cannot control? How much time? How much time do I spend? Include in this the middle of the night when you are worrying about things, because that has to be added too. Okay, we're going to mark down how much time, and I'm just talking about pick a day in the last 7 days. Maybe pick yesterday or today because you're thinking about it most and you would remember it best. How many minutes do you spend on things that you cannot change? That would include any amount of minutes worrying about something, any amount of minutes scrolling through Facebook or watching the news or watching maybe a reality TV show where people are fighting and they're having issues, or they're in court together, or they're yelling at each other, or whatever. That's issues that you cannot solve or control. How many minutes did you spend telling someone, including your family members, friends, co-workers, whatever, about how they should do something when really you have no control over whether or not they will do that? All of those minutes together. I wonder, you and I and Christian women, how many minutes, hours do we spend in a week, waking hours, thinking about, talking about, listening to and watching and reading about things we have no way to control? Could that be part of the reason why we wake up sad? Why we have that little niggling feeling always that we're not happy and content and we're not even sure what's wrong? Are we still reading the conspiracy theory emails? Are we still stewing over political things that we cannot absolutely change? I will give it to you. It is a scary world we live in, but every moment we think about what's happening with the quickly changing abortion laws and taxpayer funding and things like that are very frustrating, very horrific, but there is nothing we can do about it. We cannot control that. Let's remind ourselves that we have lived for several years under government administrations that did give our taxpayer money to fund abortions. We have already done that in the past. That is horrific and horrible, and someone will, and several someones, I'm sure, will have to give account for those babies' lives. That is horrible, but the point is, we couldn't do anything about it then. We can't do anything about it now. And we are going to be okay, because we can only control what we can control. Every moment worrying is useless. Every moment in fear of things that are going to happen that might not even happen, but we're afraid they're going to happen, or our kids not going to turn out. I'm talking about myself here, worrying about that. Anyone with kids can worry about that. Just all kinds of things. You name it, we can worry about it. If we're spending our time in those ways, how is that going to make us happy? We can't do a thing about it. And I'm going to go a little step further. If we spend a lot of time praying about it, but not just leaving it with the Lord, that is the way of spiritual worrying. In other words, we're worrying and we're throwing God's name in it. Oh, dear Lord, and then we start worrying about something. We just need to stay on our page and really focus our efforts on things that we can control in our daily life. I believe, ladies, that is where we're going to find the victorious Christian life. That is where we're going to find happiness and peace. When we start to think about all of the horrible things in this world that we cannot control, we've got to give it to God and move on to something that we can control. Yes, God can do anything. Yes, we should pray about things. Then we get up off our knees and we live our lives filled with things that we can control. You go ahead and do those dishes. You go ahead and teach that class. You go ahead and work your job. And we will not have to waste our time uselessly filling our mind with things out of our control. I believe that's a great way to happiness. Let's walk in love this week. We know that loving God means loving others.